Welcome to WIZOnet, WIZO's professional business network. Today on our Corona lockdown conversations, we are having Simon Shulman, the director of Graphical. I'm Asnat Mas, WIZO's philanthropy manager. Hi Simon, how are you?
I'm very well, Osnat. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you for joining us. Well, today we're going to talk about branding, marketing and fundraising, which on regular days I assume is, quite straightforward. You need to be creative, but you know where you're going. When it comes to the way companies are branding themselves, do you notice any difference now compared to what happened just a few weeks ago?
Well, I think it's an interesting point. I think people haven't yet decided what they want to be during the coronavirus crisis. I think companies have been, but let's be honest. I mean, we've all lost track of the days, and we're all losing track of the time. I think what's happening, and it's all happened so incredibly fast. So on one hand, we're sort of stuck at home and potentially a bit bored and getting cabin fever. On the other hand, it's all happened so fast that you can't remember how many days into the lockdown you actually are. And some people were locking down themselves beforehand. So I think from a corporate point of view, companies don't really know, who they are and what they're trying to say. So if we take corporates, for example, the very big companies, and I'm not doing this from a personal point of view, I'm just doing it anecdotally from what I'm seeming to observe, not personal to our business, but the very big companies are carrying on as they were before. So, and that happens in two ways. The sort of what I would call the sort of the above the line obvious marketing they are doing, but they're not pushing it hard. I get the feeling that only so many. I'm looking at things like TV advertising and things like that, the sort of FMCG goods. And TV advertising now seems to be, again, it depends on when you look, but it's a combination of and where you look. But you look at you've got companies. Sky, for instance, just seems to be full of companies selling gold coins because I suspect that their angle is that that they probably bought up all this daytime advertising in the past and it's cheap anyway. So you've got to think of some of that as well. And B, that gold is always seen as a safe haven in times of trouble. But the reality is I don't know the quality of this or anything like that, and I always think they're a bit sort of scammy, those ads anyway. But the big firms, the mobile phone companies, that they're carrying on because everyone knows you need that. The internet companies selling broadband because everyone knows you kind of need that. But I think, from a consumer point of view, I think it's very hard for anyone to be overtly selling anything now, because people know they need food, but outside of food, I'm not sure, and some minor entertainment products to keep yourself busy. People don't really need that much. And I think what's happening is a lot of the big companies are carrying on. I know from our point of view, we're working with some big firms still, and what they're doing is they know they can ride this out. They know that the world will come back. They know they're going to be here when the world comes back. And what they're specifically doing is they're sort of planning for when that happens. So they're not suddenly stopping their product launches. They're working on their product launches to get everything ready. Now, in another word, if we take the service industries, and again looking at it from through the lens of what we do, helping businesses like that promote themselves, I get the feeling the service industries have pretty much gone quiet. They seem to have shut up shop from the point of view as they know, if you take legal, professional services like law firms, accountancies, they know people are going to come to them. But at the same time, they also know that they have, they run reasonably, they've got expensive but tight ships. So they've got lots of staff, lots of partners, lots of, and at the end of the day, if there's no commerce, law firms, depending on what they do, may struggle if they're very focused on corporate work. There's not a lot of corporate around. If they're very focused on real estate, there is no real, there's no real estate work around.
I think behind the scenes, I think the real estate mainly affected people like you and me if we are about to buy a house or to sell. But I think in higher levels, some things are still going on. And when it comes to their branding and marketing, I was wondering, now that we looked at the big firms, small businesses that usually count on social media and organic followers more than
Yeah.
promotion. Because one of the things I've noticed, I get less adverts on Facebook at the moment, for example.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's interesting. So I think I was actually having a conversation with a social media business colleague of mine earlier today, and talking to someone yesterday, and most of them still seem to be down, but they're still doing business, because what's happening is their clients realize that if they go off grid now, they're going to drop down. They'll drop down the sort of pecking order. People will forget them. So it's a question of carrying on. You know, some of these guys. One of the guys said he was quite lucky because a lot of his clients were in the sort of construction and DIY world. So in that, in that world, they're still doing this. Some people have, if you're a small business, you're in the food. I've been really impressed by the way that the food businesses have. I mean, they have no choice, but they very quickly pivoted to changing their model. So that's what a lot of businesses are doing, is where possible, they're changing the model. So a restaurant's gone from cooking and serving people in their restaurant to cooking where possible and doing it through takeaways or not even takeaways. It has to be deliveries these days. Although again, they're coming under pressure. I understand, people like Deliveroo, etc., are coming under pressure because a lot of the restaurants are closing. A lot of the bigger chains are closed down entirely, and that's how. So if you want Wagamama's, you can't get Wagamama's on Deliveroo because Wagamama's is closed down. So that then affects Deliveroo, which then affects the drivers. But going back to your question, I think the small businesses are pivoting. They're pivoting where they can. The other side of it is they're small enough to. I think there's an element of hibernation going on. People are just, shutting down their systems to the basic ones they need to keep alive. And that is literal and metaphorical these days.
Now we are going to go into something that is slightly more sensitive, especially for me, as I am from a charity, from WIZO, fundraising. Because up to now we talked about companies and the commercial world, but how do you think it affects charities and their fundraising abilities, especially charities that are not NHS linked? Because at the moment the focus, rightfully so, in a way, is on the NHS, but other charities still need to get the monies for their projects going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's two ways of looking at it. Both the charities themselves, and a lot of charities are. I don't know, this isn't directly the question, but a lot of charities are looking at sort of their admin costs and how they can reduce those so that they have. So their outgoings are as little as possible. Now, so let's answer your question. But what are they doing about the fact they still need money coming in? Now, I guess it all depends on the calendar and the cycle. So if you're in, and a lot of charities are, if your entire fundraising is based around your annual dinner plus 20%, and your annual dinner is in June, you've got a problem. They're all putting these off, and lots of people are putting their dinners and so on off. But there's only so many dinners you're ever going to be able to have in 1 year. Although there are but a lot of people don't support all charities. They all have 2 or 3 that they support. Those are the 2 or 3 dinners they, etc. If as I say, if you've had your dinner and all the rest of it, then it's less of an issue. But the other way of it is that and then there are some charities who don't have dinners at all. I was talking to a charity yesterday. One of their fundraising things they do is they do a walk, right? And how's that going to work? Now, they do like sponsored walks, and that helps raise money, and it actually sends the money to Israel. So what they're going to do instead of them organising the walk and everyone doing it under their banner, they're pivoting their social media and their communications channels to inform people that what they want people to do now is that when they go out and do their daily walk, then they still give the small money that they were going to give to this charity, and they give it anyway. So it's being clever and thinking on your feet, and not just writing to everyone and saying we've cancelled. And I think charities need to change their messaging. I think we have a duty to make sure that we continue to support all charities. I think charities will take the hit along with everybody else, and it's quite possible they'll take the biggest hit because at the end of the day, it's discretionary it's effectively discretionary spend that people are putting to
Well,
charities.
if people take a hit on their income, some people, their income has dried completely, regardless of what they're doing about marketing and branding, because of this situation. So obviously there would be a knock-on effect. But do you
No, that's
do you have any suggestions or ideas for charities? And I'm talking about the smaller ones, not obviously,
yeah.
the big ones.
So
Let's carry on. Do you have any suggestions?
definitely. So keep communicating, keep talking to your donor base, make people know that you're doing, you're still doing good work and you still need their money. I think this is an opportunity people have got time now, so that's the one thing people have got. So let's think how we do that. It's about building up relationships, even if perhaps the money isn't for today. It's being there for someone tomorrow. A lot of charity, as you say, there's a huge focus on the NHS now. But at the same time, we've all been, I'm sure you're doing it, where possible, helping,
Yeah.
we've all up for the NHS, charity, but I've also been delivering food through the synagogues for local people. So we're all working in the background, we're all doing things. So I like to think when this is all over, the NHS will, to a certain extent, pay back.
Yeah.
Not literally money, but the NHS they will want to help all the people that helped them, if you know what I mean. And it's a big enough body. And I don't know how that will work practically, but the key, but also you've got to remember, as charities and small charities, marketing doesn't need to cost a lot of money. So I just think people need to be clever about how they spend their money. So you can't be capitalizing on this. No one can capitalize on this. But at the same time, if you're too worried about saying we're still here, the other people they won't care and they'll take your pound. So you need to make sure that the pound that you used to go to. So you need to communicate directly with people. Write them emails saying we're not having a dinner this year, or I know it might be difficult for you, but can you give a percentage of what you thought that you'd be able to give? It's really tough because people a lot of people are struggling or might be struggling. I think that's another fear.
Yeah.
That people are okay now, but what about in 3 months if it's a
exactly
6 month
it's the fault of the next stage.
People are not just hoarding physically, they're hoarding sort of mentally in their head and their money in their bank accounts about how they're going to and what they're going to spend on.
That is true, because
but
for
social
example,
media, if you're controlling it yourself or if you use an agency, etc., is relatively low cost.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing with social media, and you hear this word, the magic word, content. And a lot of people, it's boring content.
Yeah.
Or another thing, another survey, another whatever. It's not relevant. People just chucking social media tweets out or Facebook posts. But now you have proper content, and in some ways you can almost be less. You don't have to be. It doesn't have to be delivered as slickly as it used to be. It doesn't have to be brilliantly edited videos. Just get it out there. Look what we did today. We do maybe some infographics. That's an opportunity to do infographics. People can see we serve 10,000 meals to children in Israel whose parents were working in hospitals who wouldn't otherwise be able to do that, or just 10,000 vulnerable people, or helping women in, we've helped put so many, women that we help in our abuse shelters, victims of domestic abuse. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the things. There's all of that still going on. And as we know, domestic abuse, lots of, it goes on in lots of families. And if husbands and wives are put together in these situations now, it's going to get worse. We've seen that.
The pressure is mounting. When there is violence to begin with, now it's going to mount. And I can tell you that our shelters in Israel are busier than ever, unfortunately. It's a sad thing to say, but there is a lot of pressure and a lot of demand, unfortunately.
Absolutely, and again, I think people respond. So people respond to those stories. I think charities can be complacent. There's just an assumption they'll put their hands out and people will give money and in a sense they're the very successful charities, because they're the charities that spent so much money on their brands in the past that you don't even know what they're doing and you just think, I'll give them money. Right. Yeah. Whereas, but those are the bigger charities. The smaller charities tell your story. Everyone is going to have a story. Everyone has their own donor base out there. People, you've just got to find them, and you won't find them unless you tell their stories so that people can see. Oh, that resonates with me. Those are the people I want to support.
Definitely. Thank you very, very much, Simon, for your ideas and for
Pleasure.
the outlook on how to get things moving despite this lockdown and slowness of the way the market is operating. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching us.
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.